Okay, so you're here because, let's be honest, you're looking for that signal in all the noise, right?
Yeah.
You want the crucial insights into the tech that's actually going to shape our future, and you want it fast.
You've come to the right place.
You've come to the right place. I
Yeah.
like it.
Yeah.
Today we're diving deep into something that is being called the spatial web.
The spatial web, it really is, I think, the next evolution of the internet itself.
Yeah.
We're moving beyond the two-dimensional web that we're so familiar with
Right.
and beginning to weave digital information into the very fabric of our physical world.
Okay.
It's a pretty fundamental shift, I think, in how we interact with technology going forward.
Yeah, and we've been looking into this. We've been poring over a ton of fascinating stuff.
Yeah.
Articles breaking down the latest in edge computing trends. We've got expert opinions from folks who are actually building this thing on where spatial computing is heading. Analyses of the key players making this happen. So our goal today is to give you a clear, concise understanding of what the spatial web is, what it can do, who's building it, and how it's poised to revolutionize your everyday life.
You ready to jump in?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. But
Okay.
to start, I mean, we've got to address the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
What exactly is the spatial web?
Well, in a nutshell, I think the spatial web is really about this concept of layering the digital world onto our physical reality.
Okay.
It's about, instead of, always looking at this flat screen,
Right.
imagining digital information existing within and interacting with the three-dimensional spaces all around us.
So instead of having my phone in front of me and looking at it, I mean, it's sort of all around me. I'm interacting with it in a more natural way. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. It's making computing a much more natural and intuitive experience.
Okay.
Much like how we moved, years ago from typing in commands on a computer
Right.
to clicking icons with a mouse, and then more recently to manipulating things directly with touchscreens. This is really that next step in that evolution.
So it's almost like a Beyond Web 2.0 concept,
Yeah.
but it's taken to a whole new dimension, literally.
Yeah, exactly.
We've gone from those static websites to the interactive platforms on our phones. Now it's like it's coming off the phone. It's all around us. What powers this next big leap, though? I mean, what are the core components of this spatial web?
Well, it's really an exciting time to be talking about this because we have a convergence of several really powerful technologies that are all kind of maturing at the same time.
Yeah.
We've got, the Internet of Things, which we've talked about before, this vast network of connected devices all collecting data about the physical world.
Right.
Then you need the intelligence to interpret that data. That's where artificial intelligence comes in.
Yeah.
Things like active inference, AI, and machine learning.
Mm-hmm.
And then to actually visualize and interact with this digital layer, that's where we have XR, extended reality, augmented, virtual, and mixed reality technologies coming in. And then you can't forget the crucial role of autonomous vehicles, drones, robots. These become kind of the mobile actors within this spatial landscape.
Yeah.
And then underpinning it all for security and trust, you've got things like blockchain and then crucially edge computing, which is bringing the processing power closer to the data source.
So it's not like one groundbreaking invention.
Yeah.
It's kind of the symphony of all these things coming together at the right time.
Right. It is a symphony.
I like that. And now I've heard this term digital twin being thrown around a lot in the context of the spatial web.
Hmm.
What is a digital twin and how does it fit into this?
Well, the idea here, and it's a very powerful idea, is that we can essentially create a comprehensive digital twin of our entire planet
Whoa, okay.
and everything on it. So imagine a dynamic virtual replica of our reality,
Okay.
where every space, every object, everything has a digital counterpart that is programmable
Okay.
and that understands its context in relationship to other things. So it's kind of like this continuously updated, intelligent digital mirror.
So instead of having like a Google Maps of where I am, it's like a real-time simulation of everything around me.
Yeah, it's everything around you and how it's all interacting.
Wow, that's pretty intense.
So, for example, a digital twin of a city could actually simulate traffic patterns in real time and allow, traffic lights to adjust proactively to prevent congestion before it even happens.
Interesting. So it's not just about representing it's about simulating what could be or what will be.
Exactly, and what should be.
Okay, so we've got all these, autonomous vehicles, we've got AI, we've got edge computing, digital twins. I mean, how do all these different technologies communicate with each other within this spatial web? Is there some kind of like universal language?
Well, that is really a key piece of the puzzle, and thankfully, the IE has developed a global standard for this called the Hyperspace Transaction Protocol, or HSTP,
HSTP. Got it.
and it's for the spatial web along with a common language called the Hyperspace Modeling Language, or HSML.
Okay.
So think of HSML as kind of like a universal translator for technology. It allows all these different systems, whether they're current, emerging, or even legacy systems, to understand each other and exchange information seamlessly.
Wow.
So that means like a smart sensor in a building can talk to the AI that's managing the climate control.
So it's almost like a universal language for the Internet of Things and Places.
That's it.
I like that. I like that a lot. And I understand that this HSTP, it's not just about enabling communication. It also addresses some of the, the security flaws that we have with our current Internet.
That's a really important point because,
Mhm.
our current internet is constantly facing threats from hacking, from tracking, from, the spread of misinformation.
Big news.
Fake news,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So HSTP is actually designed with security built in from the ground up.
Interesting.
So it incorporates concepts like self-sovereign identity,
Okay.
which means you have control over your own digital information,
Got it.
and things like zero-knowledge proofs,
Oh,
which
yeah.
allow you to verify facts without having to reveal the sensitive data behind them. So it's really about creating a much more secure and trustworthy foundation for this new internet.
So instead of the Wild West, it's a little more, there's some more safeguards in place.
A lot more safeguards
Okay,
here.
I like it. And, we've been talking about HSML and how it's, it's this universal language that lets things talk to each other, but it can do more than that, right?
Yeah.
You mentioned something about smart contracts earlier.
Exactly. So because HSML allows us to define not just data, but the relationships and the context around that data,
Okay.
it lets us essentially program human agreements in a way that an AI can understand and act upon.
Wow.
So these are what we call smart contracts.
Okay.
And these smart contracts could automate all sorts of processes from, legal agreements to financial transactions
Interesting.
with a level of transparency and efficiency we haven't seen before.
And these contracts are written in HSML.
That's right. They can be written in HSML, and importantly, HSML is designed to be blockchain agnostic.
Okay.
So it can work with a variety of different, secure distributed ledger systems.
Right. Okay. So we've got a picture of what the spatial web is.
Mm-hmm.
It's this three-dimensional internet integrated with our physical world,
Mm-hmm.
powered by all this stuff coming together, edge computing, AI, all this stuff, and with this common language and this built-in security.
Right.
But what are some of the features? What are the things that this enables? What can the spatial web do that the current internet can't?
I think one of the most transformative features is something called transversion.
Transversion. Okay.
And this is the ability to seamlessly move between the physical and digital worlds.
Okay.
So imagine, you're interacting with some digital object that's overlaid on your physical desk.
Okay.
And then with a simple gesture, you can send that object to a colleague in another city.
Okay.
And it materializes in their augmented reality workspace.
Wow.
It's really about breaking down those barriers between the virtual and the real.
Yeah, it's not just on the screen anymore. It's part
Yeah.
of our environment. We can interact with it naturally. What are some of the technologies that make this transversion and these features possible? I mean, what are the core building blocks?
Oh, we touched on a few earlier,
Yeah.
but I think it's worth going a little deeper.
Okay.
Edge computing is absolutely critical here by
Mhm.
processing data at the source,
Right.
so on the devices themselves and on local networks,
Instead of sending it to the cloud.
rather than sending everything to a distant cloud.
Right.
We get much faster real-time responses, and this is essential for things like autonomous vehicles
Yeah.
for responsive, augmented reality experiences.
Makes sense.
And you have to consider that the number of edge-enabled IoT devices is expected to hit something like 77 billion by 2030.
Wow.
And the amount of data they generate is growing exponentially.
It's huge.
So local processing is really the only way to handle that efficiently.
Yeah, you can't have your AR application lagging because it's waiting for a server on the other side of the world.
Exactly. Or your robot hesitating before it makes a decision.
Right. Right. That makes sense. So edge computing is crucial. How about how the spatial web actually perceives and understands the physical environment around it?
That's where computer vision comes and the ability for systems to essentially see and interpret images and video,
Huh.
coupled with sensors of all kinds, cameras, LiDAR, GPS, environmental sensors.
Hmm.
And sensor fusion, which is combining the data from these multiple sources, the spatial web can build a very rich and accurate understanding of its surroundings.
So it's almost like giving it senses,
Yeah, it's giving it sense
like sight and touch and location.
exactly. And the Internet of Things is really providing the eyes and ears, collecting this vast amount of spatial data that the spatial web can then utilize.
Right.
And of course, machine learning is crucial for identifying patterns, predicting outcomes, and automating processes based on this spatial information.
Right. And we talked about digital twins earlier.
hmm
How do those fit into this beyond just being a virtual representation?
Well, the digital twin becomes really a dynamic and interactive feature. It's not just a static model. It's this kind of living, breathing digital counterpart that can be used for real-time monitoring, simulation, and optimization.
So I can see the digital twin of my city,
hmm
and I can see, what the traffic's like right now, but I can also simulate what would happen if we, close down this road or something like that.
Exactly. Or, what would happen if there was a major storm coming in? How could we best prepare the city and its resources to respond?
So it's like a crystal ball for real world scenarios.
It really is, and it can be used across many different industries, not just for cities, but for things like, factories and manufacturing processes, as healthcare even.
Right, right. And you mentioned HSML earlier and how it enables unprecedented interoperability.
Right.
What does that actually mean as a feature for the user?
Well, it means that your different devices, platforms, applications can all communicate and share data seamlessly.
Okay.
So imagine, your smart home devices, your car, your workplace systems all understanding each other and working together in a coordinated way, regardless of who made them or what technology they're using.
Interesting.
This level of interoperability is going to lead to entirely new kinds of integrated experiences and efficiencies.
Yeah, because right now it's kind of a mess. Like all my devices they all do their own thing. They don't really talk to each other very well.
Right now, it's very siloed, but the spatial web can break down those silos.
Okay. And this active inference AI that we talked about earlier, how does that play into the features that we'll actually experience?
Well, what's really interesting about active inference is that it allows AI agents within the spatial web to learn and adapt based on their own interactions and their own frame of reference.
Okay.
They don't necessarily need these massive data sets to be effective.
Interesting.
Instead, they can actively seek out the information they need in the moment
Okay.
to optimize their actions and their predictions.
So it's not just about brute force processing.
Yeah.
It's about being intelligent about what data you need and when you need it.
Exactly. So this leads to much more efficient and personalized experiences.
Okay.
So for example, imagine a navigation system that's powered by active inference. It might learn your preferred routes
Okay.
and adjust dynamically based on real-time conditions and your past behavior without relying on some giant static map database.
Wow.
So it's really personalized to you.
Yeah, so less reliance on these huge central data silos and more intelligent context-aware response is happening in real time.
Exactly.
That's fascinating. Okay, and then finally we've got to talk about blockchain. How does that fit in beyond just the security aspects?
Well, beyond security and data integrity, blockchain and other distributed ledger technologies can enable features like secure and transparent data sharing,
Okay.
decentralized marketplaces for spatial assets and services,
Interesting.
and self-sovereign identity management,
Got it.
which gives individuals much greater control over their digital lives within the spatial web.
Right, so it's almost like taking the power back from the Facebooks and the Googles of the world.
Exactly. It's about building a more open and democratized digital environment.
Okay, so we're talking about a truly interconnected world, an intelligent world where things are talking to each other, things are, happening in real time.
Yeah.
We've got this digital twin of our entire planet.
Yeah, it's a pretty exciting vision.
It is exciting, but who's building all this stuff? Who are the key players that we should be paying attention to?
Well, the landscape is very dynamic right now.
Yeah.
But we can kind of broadly categorize the key players.
Okay.
So first you have the companies that are developing the foundational spatial computing platforms and software. One that's doing some really interesting work is Versus AI.
Versus AI.
And they have their Codesm AI operating system, which is really designed for this context-aware computing.
Right.
And they also have this Wayfinder application, which is all about optimizing logistics using spatial intelligence.
Okay, and Wayfinder is already showing tangible results, right, in areas like warehousing.
Exactly. So it's demonstrating those immediate practical applications of this spatial AI.
So they're not just, they're not just theorizing about it, they're actually making it happen.
Right. They're building it.
That's cool. And I know Versus, they're They're heavily involved in setting some of these standards for the spatial web, aren't they?
Yeah, they're a big proponent of open standards and interoperability.
Yeah, that's important.
Ah.
Okay, so we've got the software brains of the operation, but what about the hardware? What about the devices that are actually going to let us access and interact with this spatial web?
Yeah, well, that's where the hardware manufacturers come in.
Right.
And Qualcomm is a dominant force here with their Snapdragon XR platforms.
Snapdragon.
Yeah, these are powering a wide range of augmented, virtual, and mixed reality headsets
Okay.
and smart glasses,
Okay.
including some popular devices you might have heard of, like the Meta Quest 3,
Yeah,
the Ray-Ban Meta smart glasses.
I've seen those.
Yeah, and we're also seeing some other companies coming in, like Lynx Mixed Reality is offering a more affordable alternative to the Apple Vision Pro.
Oh, yeah. I've heard about the Apple Vision Pro. It's supposed to be pretty expensive.
It's a high-end device, but Lynx is offering a more accessible option.
Okay.
So there's going to be a range of devices to meet different needs and price points.
So it's not just going to be, for the wealthy. It's going to be something that everyone can access eventually.
That's the goal.
Okay, so we've got the brains, we've got the devices. What about the underlying infrastructure, the networking, the processing power?
Well, that's where the edge computing infrastructure and platform providers come in.
Okay.
And you've got companies like EdgeConneX who are building out the physical infrastructure to bring the processing power closer to those edge devices.
Interesting.
And then on the platform side, you've got companies like BEING, Clearblade Courage Dynamic Neutron, and they're developing solutions for managing and orchestrating all those edge resources.
Okay, so they're making sure that all those edge devices can actually talk to each other and work together.
Exactly. And they're doing some really innovative things. For example, BEING's B platform is being used in projects like the Cognitive Hospital.
The cognitive hospital, that sounds interesting.
Yeah, it's a really fascinating project where they're using AI and edge computing to improve patient care.
Okay.
And Dynamics Fog Lampe Suite is enabling advanced edge machine learning operations in industrial settings like, factories and manufacturing plants.
Okay.
And Neutron's technology is simplifying the deployment and management of private 5G and edge applications for a variety of industries.
So it's kind of like the plumbing of the spatial web, making sure that everything is connected and flowing
Oh,
smoothly.
exactly. It's the essential infrastructure.
And what about connecting all those physical things, the vast number of IoT devices that are going to be generating all this spatial data?
Right. Well, that's the domain of the IoT solution providers.
Yeah.
Companies like Nokia Onymos, Semtech Silicon Labs, Soracom Springdell.
Yeah.
These are all crucial enablers here.
Yeah.
Nokia, for example, is working on advanced 5G applications and automation platforms. Onymos is providing a platform that simplifies the development of IoT features.
What?
Semtech's LoRa technology is enabling long-range, low-power IoT connectivity.
Got it.
Silicon Labs is focused on secure connectivity solutions for IoT devices.
Okay.
Soracom is offering a really comprehensive IoT connectivity platform with these new generative AI capabilities.
Interesting.
And Springdell is providing unified management for mobile and IoT devices.
So it's really a complex ecosystem with all these different players.
It is. It's a very dynamic landscape.
And they're all kind of contributing to making this vision a reality. Are there any other important categories of companies that are involved in building this spatial web?
Yeah, absolutely. You've got the real-time 3D engine developers like Unity Software.
Unity, yeah.
Their tools are essential for creating those immersive spatial applications and experiences.
Right, because you need something to actually render those 3D worlds.
Exactly. You need that engine. And then you have companies that are focusing on specific use cases of the spatial web. For example, Arthur Technologies is developing mixed reality solutions to enhance collaboration in hybrid work environments.
Interesting. So, like, if I'm working from home, but I want to feel like I'm in the office with my colleagues?
Exactly. They're leveraging platforms like Qualcomm Snapdragon Spaces to do that.
Okay.
And Avantis Systems, with their Class VR platform, is transforming education through these immersive virtual reality learning experiences.
Yeah, VR in education is a huge area of growth right now.
It's really exciting to see what they're doing.
Yeah, and then, of course, you've got companies using digital twin technology across various industries,
Absolutely.
from optimizing manufacturing processes
Right.
to creating these detailed simulations in healthcare.
Like being able to visualize holographic models during surgery.
Whoa, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's very precise and it can really help improve patient outcomes.
Yeah, and even in retail companies like Wayfair have really invested heavily in creating 3D models of their products.
Yeah.
Initially, it was for AR visualization. So you can see what that couch would look like in your living room.
Right.
But now it's forming the basis of their entire online catalog.
Yeah. So they've optimized that initial investment for a much broader benefit.
That's smart.
It's a very smart strategy.
So all of this is really cool. But where are we now in this journey toward a fully realized spatial web? And where do you think we could realistically be heading in the near future?
Well, I think analysis suggests that we're currently in this phase of moving from augmentation,
Okay.
where individual technologies are solving kind of isolated problems
Right.
toward optimization, where we're starting to see more integrated and aligned applications across organizations.
Okay.
So, for example, using augmented reality to guide technicians through complex maintenance procedures or using virtual reality for specialized training, these are what we're seeing right now.
So those are kind of like the early interconnected deployments in certain industries.
Exactly.
What about the future? What does that fully realized spatial web look like in our daily lives?
Well, that's where we move into the unification stage.
Unification. Okay.
And this is where the true potential of the spatial web, I think, becomes really evident.
Okay.
And that's seamless integration across technologies and ecosystems.
So everything is talking to everything else, and it just works.
Yeah, it just works.
I like that.
And imagine a future where literally every physical element has this dynamic digital representation.
Okay.
So, you say to someone, hey, meet me at the top of the Empire State Building. And they say, well, which one?
Right. The digital one or the physical one?
Exactly.
Wow.
And you're constantly moving between physical and digital contexts
Okay.
with the right information and experiences available precisely when and where you need them.
That's powerful.
So, for example, picture this. You wake up in the morning.
Okay.
Your smart home has already anticipated your needs based on your digital twin's understanding of your sleep patterns and your schedule.
Right.
As you head out the door, your city's digital twin is optimizing the traffic flow in real time, making sure you have a smooth commute in your autonomous vehicle.
Yeah. No more traffic jams.
Hopefully no more traffic jams.
At work, I can collaborate with colleagues remotely in a shared mixed reality workspace.
Exactly.
So it feels like we're in the same room even though we're miles apart.
Exactly. And in healthcare, doctors can use holographic models based on your digital twin for precise diagnosis and personalized treatments.
Wow.
Your children are learning through immersive, interactive educational experiences that are tailored to their individual learning styles.
That's awesome.
Supply chains are incredibly efficient and transparent with real-time tracking of goods.
Okay.
Even managing climate change becomes more effective because we have detailed digital twins of the planet that are running AI-powered simulations to inform policy decisions.
So we can actually see the impact of our choices.
Exactly. And when you want to relax,
Yeah.
entertainment and social interaction will be transformed through these deeply immersive and personalized spatial experiences that go way beyond, today's video games or social media.
It's like it's like the holodeck from Star Trek is becoming a reality.
It's getting close. It's getting close.
So this is a pretty transformative vision, but
Yeah.
what are some of the hurdles that we still need to overcome to get there?
Yeah, there are definitely some challenges.
Okay.
Integrating these new spatial web technologies with existing IT infrastructure is a big one.
Right.
Addressing privacy concerns related to all this spatial data that's being collected is paramount.
Yeah.
And secure decentralized solutions are going to be crucial there.
Makes sense.
We also need significant advancements in computational power, particularly at the edge, to handle all that real-time processing.
Right.
And for widespread consumer adoption, we need affordable, comfortable, and user-friendly AR interfaces.
Yeah.
Like, stylish glasses or maybe even contact lenses.
Right. So it can't be these clunky headsets that we have now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It needs to be something that people actually want to wear. But I think the real breakthrough is going to come from viewing all these technologies not in isolation, but as interconnected components of a larger Web 3.0 strategy,
Web 3.0.
where their combined power can create something truly revolutionary.
Okay, so it's not just about the individual pieces, it's about how they all fit together.
There, it's the synergy.
So the spatial web, it's not just a collection of futuristic gadgets. It's a fundamental shift in how we interact with information, with technology, with the physical world around us.
Exactly. And it's the convergence of all these advancements,
Right.
driven by common standards,
Yeah?
and the ingenuity of all these companies that we've been talking about that is making this future a tangible possibility.
Yeah, it's not science fiction anymore. It's something that is actually happening.
It's happening now.
This has been a really insightful deep dive into the spatial web. It really gives you a sense of the magnitude of the changes that are coming.
It's a very exciting time.
Yeah. And on that note, our final thought for you to ponder. as these lines between the physical and digital worlds continue to blur
Mm-hmm.
and eventually dissolve into this spatial web.
Yeah.
How will this reshape not just our interactions with technology, but our very understanding of human experience of society, of even the nature of reality itself?
That's a big question.
It is a big question. What new possibilities and perhaps unforeseen challenges
Right.
will arise from this deeply integrated future? It's a question worth exploring
Absolutely.
long after our deep dive concludes.
It's a question that we should all be thinking about
Yeah.
because it's going to affect all of us.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah.
We'll catch you next time.
See ya.